Hi friends, it's Lauren Taylor. Thanks for joining me in my craft room today. I'm happy to have you here for a Trinity Stamps video. I'm going to be sharing 3 projects that I made with the brand new Thanks a Watt die set. There is so much versatility in this die set and we're going to put that all to the test. We're going to start first with creating an interactive card, and this is going to be a light up card using Pear Blossoms Press Halo Lights. These are such a fun interactive way to add in multiple lights, and they all face inward, so it gives that halo effect as the name suggests. I did all of my die cutting with the Thanks a Watt die set. I'm going to show you how I did a partial die cut on this piece of green cardstock because I just wanted the bulb to be cut out and not the base of the bulb, the part that connects into the light fixture. So I just partially die cut it on my mat, and I did a quick little demonstration of how I did that there. I have die cut out the Thanks a Watt sentiment shadow out of some white cardstock, as well as the bulb kind of lighting up the coil inside the bulb. I die cut the base of my bulb in a blue cardstock, and I die cut my sentiment and the wires for inside the bulb out of the blue cardstock as well. But I did add behind it some rip and stick adhesive sheet, so my sentiment and the wiring for my bulb as well as the details for the connector have an adhesive behind the blue cardstock, so I can easily assemble everything together. In order to give my light bulb a light bulb look, I'm also going to die cut a bulb out of vellum. I forgot to do it while I was doing my die cutting, so I'll just do that in a little bit. But I wanted to add a little bit of ink to my die cut pieces just to give them some dimension and some depth when I place them onto my card. I like adding ink to colored cardstock because it just helps, step up the colored cardstock. So I added a little bit of blue ink to my connector for my light bulb, and that was with Salty Ocean Distress ink. And then I'm also going to use a yellow ink for my sentiment and the little, coil for the light bulb. And I've been using my blending buddies, but these little die cut pieces were a little daintier than I needed for the blending buddy. So I'm going to grab a smaller brush to try and get that ink to really get on those white, or not white, yellow die cut pieces. But honestly, I think I just chose an ink that was too light. So I'm trying again, this time with a darker yellow, and it looks so much better. So this is fossilized amber, and I'm just using that little kind of smaller brush to create an ombre look on my yellow shadow die cut pieces. Again, just trying to add some dimension to my solid cardstock. So that will be it for those pieces. So I have them on a low-tack mat, so that way it was just easy to add the ink on these little tiny die cuts. And I'm going to now work on adding my sentiments. Again, I cut those out of a blue cardstock with a rip and stick sheet behind them, so they turned into stickers. And I looked for my pickup stick everywhere. I don't know what I did with my pickup stick. It is like my favorite tool ever, and I have no idea what I did with it. So I apologize. I'm using a different tool than normal in today's video, but to use the pokey side of the pickup stick is a great way to get the die cuts out of those dainty dies. And I'm so sorry for my hood. I was freezing in my craft room, so my crazy hair and my hoodie is on. But you can poke through the openings, the holes on the dies to be able to push that die out, and then because it is like a sticker, it just sticks right onto the shadow very easily. So I did that with the thanks, and I went through and did a watt, and now I'm working on adding on the details to the connecting part of the bulb, the lower part that screws into lamps. So I just followed the embossed design on there and got all of those pieces onto my bulb. So now I thought, well, I want to add a little bit of ink to this green bulb cardstock, but I didn't really want to do green ink. So I'm using leftover ink on my blending brushes to add in the blue and yellow just to give some shadow and dimension to the green bulb part, which is going to be kind of like my overall shape for the bulb when I put everything together to create my light up card. So now that I have all of my little pieces ready to go, we're going to move on to assembling our card to have the halo light come through this white piece of cardstock. So I used my clean cut A2 set A rectangles to cut my red stripe background and this white piece of cardstock, and I did my best to center the bulb on that white piece of cardstock. And now I just need to trim that piece of vellum to cover the back side of the opening that I just made. So I cut my bulb out and I left plenty of room on the bottom for my sentiment. I want my bulb to sit a little higher, and that's going to be kind of the overall layout for all three of these bulb cards today. So I just wanted something simple to show how you can use this die set three different ways, but also, an interactive way with the lights, and an interactive one will be after this. That's a shaker. And then I just have a simple anniversary themed card with the bulb, just to show how diverse this amazing die set is. So once I have the hole, the light bulb hole cut out of my white cardstock, I need to place my halo light. Now I did peel off the sticky part to the back side of my white piece of cardstock, so I'm trying very hard not to set my white cardstock down because I was going to adhere my vellum to the back side of the white cardstock, and I realized I needed to trace where my halo light is going to go before I close up the hole on my vellum with vellum. I do that a lot. I accidentally put acetate on something or vellum on something before I trace where I need my opening to be for my interactive projects. So I was trying to be good about making sure I knew where my halo light needed to go on that red stripe piece of cardstock. So I went ahead and attached that vellum to the back, and now I'm kind of puzzle piecing or paper piecing my bulb together. So I put the green die cut inside of that white opening, attaching to the vellum. And now I'm going to attach the wires of the bulb. Now that's so cute. This die set has just the general wires that I'm going to use for this card. They also have a heart, which is adorable and will be on the next card. And then they have the word love instead of the coil inside of the bulb, which will be the third card. And then there's another option that says hello, which I won't use in today's video, but again, a great card to make for a friend or any occasion. So the wires that are die cut out of the blue cardstock also had that rip and stick sticker on the back, so I attached it to the coordinating yellow shadow die cut, and now I'm just using my liquid glue with a fine point to add adhesive to the back of the yellow, and then I will place that into my light bulb. So that is adhering to the vellum. And then I will also attach the bottom part of the bulb, the part that, again, the connector. So now my light bulb is pretty much put together, and now I can place my halo light. I love that I can see the red around the edges, but it's also peeking through the bulb. I really wanted to go with a fun, bright, colorful color scheme for this card, so I went with the basics: red, yellow, green, and blue. Very bright, fun, vibrant colors. I think this is great for a kid or anybody, masculine, feminine. It's a great card for anyone. I thought that the white looked a little boring against the colorful background, so I just grabbed that fossilized amber and my blending brush to add a little bit of color to the sides of my white cardstock. And now I'm going to adhere my halo light on the red background. I'm making sure that the placement still makes sense to how I design my card. So I'll go ahead and get some double-sided adhesive. This is the 1/4-inch rip and stick roll. It is the best for literally sticking it down and ripping it off. I also use the 1/8 inch around the halo, the circular part of the background. I pulled off all the release paper, and now I'm going to add it to the red striped background. I still wasn't feeling completely confident in how I traced my design, so I'm going to just lightly set it onto the red cardstock. I'm not pressing too hard, but once I like the placement, it makes sense. You can't really see the halo light in the bulb window. I went ahead and really pressed that down. Now this is a Pear Blossom Press Halo Light, which means I can use the Pear Blossom Press World's Best Foam Tape because it is the perfect thickness to make sure that the mechanism for the lights will have enough space to sit underneath the cover piece of cardstock, but then you're still able to press the button just fine. So I applied it to all four sides, pulled off the release paper, and then added that to the center of that striped cardstock background. Now I'm adding my sentiment, thanks a lot. Isn't that so adorable? I love it. So I'm working on the placement, making sure it looks centered and even. And then once I'm happy, I'm going to start with adding adhesive to the back of my thanks, and I'll glue that down. Then I'll glue down the watch so it's on the other side. And then finally, I'll glue down the A in the middle. So that just helps me make sure things look centered and even. So now I need something to tell the card receiver that it's interactive and that they should press something. And I wasn't sure what I wanted to use, so I end up using the Paper Crafting Magic die set, and I die cut out an arrow and a little star. So I'm going to put the star right where the button is, and then also glue down that cool little loopy arrow to make sure that the card receiver knows that they're supposed to push it. So I'm just going to glue those down with liquid adhesive and my tweezers, get those in place. And I did die cut those out of a red cardstock to coordinate with that striped background. Again, really just trying to bring in our fun primary plus green colors onto this card. And after that, that will finish off the card. So I will go ahead and get this onto a card base. My background is A2 in size, so it will fit perfectly on a A2 card. Here you can see it close up and what happens when I press the bulb, and you can see how fun it is, and it works so perfectly with the halo lights. But of course you could use easy lights or a one light just as well for this die set. Jumping into our second card, it's another interactive card, but this time we're going to make a shaker. I used my clean cut set A rectangles to cut out my polka dotted cardstock background, and I also did lots of die cutting again with the Thanks a Watt die set. I also have a couple other items that I'm going to be using with the card, and I am going to be creating a shaker with the new coarse sparkling sugar glass glitter. So let's go ahead and get to assembling our card. So I'm not going to add any additional ink to this card die cut. I'm just going to go ahead and glue these together to show you how they look just on their own using colored cardstock. I'm taking the frame that I die cut from the Thanks a Watt die set, and I am attaching it to a piece of acetate that I die cut as well. Now I didn't cut through my acetate completely because it was like a really thick piece of acetate, but it did leave an indentation, so I just used my scissors to cut out the acetate. So if you have super thick acetate that's having a hard time with dies, you can at least get an impression and then use your scissors to cut them. I also made this thin little frame from the different bulb dies, and I'm attaching that to my light bulb as well. And then I am going to add in the details. So I didn't do any partial die cutting this time. I went ahead and cut out the bulb and the connector from that light green cardstock. So I used the dark green cardstock to be the kind of frame of my light bulb and then the connecting piece. And then for the inside, I used the adorable heart details this time out of dark and light purple cardstock. And then the back of my light bulb is going to be blue. So we're going more cools with this card. And I did the same thing of using ribbon stick paper on the back of that dark purple cardstock. So I was able to attach the wires to the kind of glow shadow of the heart. And then same with the details that will go on the connector part of the bulb. Those will be dark purple as well on that pretty kind of tealishy green color. So I'm attaching the heart to the acetate piece, as this is going to be the front of my shaker. I think it's so cute. I'm loving this color combination. The cools are just so pretty. I'm going to use my tool again. I'm so sorry I can't find my pickup stick tool. I'm going to have to order another one. Or not going to have to. I will, because it's like one of the best pickup stick tools on the market in my opinion. So definitely need to figure out what I did with it or buy another one. And honestly, I'll probably just buy another one because they're so great and handy. But I'm adding those little details to the front of my little shaker panel, and now we can grab our double-sided foam adhesive. This is a really nice thick foam adhesive. I like to use it for shaker cards for Trinity Stamps, so it's a great adhesive. It's really thin, like it's thick, but they're thin strips, if that makes sense. And I pulled off both sides of the release paper. So not only I pulled it off the paper that it comes on, but I pulled off the other side of the sticky as well. And that just allows me to be able to curve and turn the foam adhesive to create my little shaker well. And I also added some foam adhesive to the bottom of my bulb. So now I'm opening up my coarse glitter, and I'm just going to pour that inside of my shaker well. I'm filling it up pretty good. There's not a lot going on in the background of my shaker, so I wanted that glass look of my light bulb. And now I'm adding the blue backing to the back side of my shaker and pressing that to make sure none of my glitter comes out of my shaker. And it looks good. So I went ahead, cleaned up my desk, and we're going to move on to assembling the card. I have my polka dot background, but I felt like it just needed something else on the polka dot background. So I'm actually going to pick this dark purple piece of cardstock since I have very little dark purple on the light bulb itself. And I'm going to trim it down to fit a little nicer on the panel in just a little bit. But I'm going to move on to getting my sentiments ready since I know that I'm going to use the dark purple as part of my background. I'm going to grab the teal and the light purple to do my sentiment. I'm using the brand new Hugs, a Simply Sentimental Hug stamp set, and I'm also using the A Sentiment for Almost Everything. So I'm going to take this Scripty Hugs. I love the Scripty Hugs or Scripty Sentiments. They look like kind of they're handwritten, and they're my favorite of all the different sentimental sets. So I'm grabbing that Hugs, and then I grabbed Happy Valentine's Day from the A Sentiment for Almost Everything. I love that these sentiments have coordinating dies. So not only the large hugs from the Simply Sentimental, but the sentiment for Almost Everything, all of those sentiments have their own dies. And I love, love, love that about Trinity Stamps is how all the sentiments, well, not all, almost all the sentiments have their own dies. So I'm stamping my hugs with a clear embossing ink and then adding some white embossing powder on there. I'm using a super fine. This is from Ink on 3, and then I repeat that with my Happy Valentine's Day on the light purple cardstock. I'm using my heat gun to melt down that embossing powder, and I will set it aside for it to cool before I die cut them out. But they do have their coordinating dies, and I'll just use some repositionable tape. This is mint tape from scrapbook.com to hold those dies in place while I run them through my die cut machine. And there we go. Now we have our sentiment. Happy Valentine's Day and the hugs. And I just love these colors together. I think it's a little non-traditional for Valentine's Day, and I'm really liking the teal. Well, I love teal with everything, but the teal and the purple is just so pretty together. I'm going to grab my paper trimmer so I can trim this piece of purple cardstock down to be more like a panel on my polka dot paper, and I left it long because I'll just trim off the excess. So I'm going to add some adhesive to the back side of this purple cardstock. I'm using my grid, please forgive my head there, to make sure that my purple cardstock was straight on my polka dot, and then I'll go ahead and grab my paper trimmer again to trim off the excess purple that goes past the edges. I probably could have lined it up on one end and then only had to trim off the other, but it is what it is. So my background is ready, and now I can add my sentiment and my cute little shaker light bulb. I decided to put some foam strips behind my sentiment. These are from scrapbook.com. They're a little bit thinner than the Trinity Stamps. I like to save those strips for shakers, so I'm using the scrapbook.com brand to add foam adhesive to the back side of my sentiment. So I'll go ahead and fill that all up with foam adhesive, and then I'm going to attach the word hugs to underneath my light bulb. Again, a very similar kind of layout to the first card when it comes to the placement of the bulb and my sentiment, but it has a completely different feel because of the color changes, the type of sentiment, and that it's a shaker card instead of a light up card, but still interactive and still a lot of fun. So I'll go ahead now and add the bulb shaker. So I'm just adding a bunch of liquid adhesive to the back side, and then I will glue that to the center but above my sentiment, giving it an even feel at the top and bottom of the card so it looks evenly spaced. Once that is in place, I'll go ahead and attach this to an A2 card base. I did die cut my polka dot paper to be slightly smaller using, again, the nested dies, the A2 clean cut layer set A. And then I'm going to grab, again, forgive me, you should be using your Trinity Stamps pickup tool, but I don't know where mine is. So I'm using a different pickup tool for now. And I'm adding a bunch of these beautiful mint mirrored bauble embellishments. So they look like kind of like half pearls. And here is a close-up look of how this Valentine's Day card turned out. I love this one. I think it's my favorite of the bunch. You'll have to let me know after the third card which one you like the most. For our third and final card, I've done my die cutting again. This time we're doing a shiny, like glittery gold, black and gray, very like elegant color scheme for this card. It's going to be an anniversary card. And this one, I'm just putting my bulb together. It's not interactive. So I'm attaching the gold that I die cut for the bulb. And again, I did partial die cutting like I did on the first card. And I attached it to a vellum background. I'm adding in a black glitter detail for the connection of the bulb. And then I completely forgot to stick my holographic cardstock to a sheet of my ribbon stick adhesive sheet. So I did have to use liquid adhesive, but I attached the love wires again out of a holographic cardstock to the shadow die cut, which was the same glittery gold cardstock. And I will add this to the bulb that I created, adhering it down to the vellum. And I think it's so cute. I love this. The love is just so adorable. Perfect for Valentine's Day cards, but like this one, I'm creating an anniversary card. I also have the holographic details for the connection on the bulb, but I will forget to do them right now, and I will do them in a little bit. So I'm going to move on to doing some stenciling. Now I'm using the brand new Sprinkled Border 6x6 stencil, and it's to create a layered border. There are 6 different stripes and they all layer together so you can create a wonderful little border. But I'm going to create a full background with this whole entire stencil. So I'm going to show you how I started off, and then once you get the hang of what I'm doing, I'll go a little faster so you don't have to see me shaking my desk because I'm a very aggressive ink blender, so forgive me now. And I picked yellow, orange, again going for that gold colors, and then I did black and grays, and I'm also going to use a gold stencil paste. So I have 6 different colors, mediums going on here. I'm going to start with the lightest color, which I wish I would have started this first phase with the stencil paste. So I guess technically started with the second phase with ink, but that will make sense later. But I have my stencil down and I am just picking up a bunch of yellow ink, again, fossilized amber, and using my yellow blending buddy to go through the whole entire stencil. So I'm not doing the same row, the same color. There's a bunch of random little dots here from using one color through the whole entire stencil. I cleaned off my stencil, and now what I'm going to do is just shift it down a row. So I'm looking at my paper, I'm lining up the yellow dots that I just colored with the stitched, or not stitched, engraved details on the stencil, so you can make sure you have everything lined up perfectly. And I use some post-it notes to kind of block that top row that's exposed. And I'm doing, again, the whole entire stencil. So now I'm going in with an orange colored ink, which is Wild Honey, and I completely covered the stencil. And then I'm bringing that last row that didn't get stenciled in the Wild Honey up to the top, and I will add in Wild Honey to that top row. So I'm just like shifting my stencil. If I had two stencils, I would just be adding the bottom row to the top. I hope that makes sense. And then I shifted it down again. So now I'm starting with the top of my stencil on the third row of confetti or sprinkles, and I'm adding in Lost Shadow. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. It's shaking so much. And then the next one I did was with Hickory Smoke. And finally I did Black Soot. So now I have every row covered except the bottom, and I'm going in with a stencil paste. This is Slippery When Wet Simon Hurley Lunar Paste from Ranger. And then I lowered my stencil, and I was being very, very careful. I should have masked this, but I didn't. I was being very daring. And I'm filling in that bottom row with the top row of the stencil. So it's like I shifted it all the way down to the bottom to get that top row on the last row. And look how cool that looks. It was a lot of work and a lot of patience and a little bit of math, but I love how it turned out. It makes such a cool background. So I let it dry for a while. I actually walked away, and I've come back and it's finally dry. So I'm going to die cut it out, as well as some black cardstock, again with my trusty A2 Clean Cut Layers rectangle set A die set. I'm going to cut the A2, the biggest size, out of my black cardstock, and then I chose a nested die to be what I'm going to die cut my new sprinkly confetti background. And I was going to switch it up. I was going to make it horizontal instead of vertical, but I just really liked the design better in vertical. So a third card in a very similar layout, but again, they all look different even though they're all almost the same. You can see that I finally added in those holographic details into my light bulb that I forgot to do earlier, and I have my backgrounds ready to go. So I'll go ahead and just use my tape runner to attach my stenciled background to the center of my black cardstock A2 kind of card background. And then I'm going to use those thinner foam strips again to attach my bulb to my card base. So again, nothing interactive about this. You could easily turn this into a shaker card as well, but I just wanted it to be a non-interactive card for this third project. So I'm going around adding that foam adhesive to the back side of my bulb. I pulled off all the release paper, and I'm going to add it very similarly to my other two cards of attaching the bulb a little bit higher but centered on the background. Now for my sentiment, I went and stamped Happy Anniversary from the A Sentiment for Almost Everything stamp set and used the coordinating die, again using that super fine white embossing powder like I did for the second card. I'm using foam adhesive to add that to the back of my sentiment, and I'll use my grid here to get it centered underneath my super shiny gold light bulb. I absolutely love the background on this card. I thought it was so fun to use that stencil, even though it's intended for just making one row, to make a whole entire full party background. But here is a close-up of the final anniversary card that I made with the Thanks a Watt stamp set. Let's go ahead and take one more look at all of the cards. So we have our Thanks a Watt light up card using a Pear Blossom Press halo light. Again, a really cool interactive card, great for anybody. We have our Happy Valentine's Day Hugs shaker light bulb in cool colors, and finally our Happy Anniversary out of some gold, black, very classic, elegant colors. But I hope you liked the Thanks a Watt cards today. Let me know in the comments which one was your favorite and how you would use this die yourself. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you'll click like, and if you're new here, I hope you'll subscribe and come back. As always, you can find everything I use down below in the description box. Thank you and have a wonderful day. Bye!